In September of 1812, when Fayetteville was a small village of scarcely more than 100 inhabitants, this nation was at war with England and William Blount was governor of Tennessee. That was before the Indians had relinquished their claim to the happy hunting ground, and bear and panther and wildcat were among humanity's greatest foes. The courthouse was a log structure measuring only 18 by 20 feet, and except for the square and 2 blocks around the square, the rest of Lincoln County was a wilderness. It was at this time that a small dedicated group of believers organized this church and named it the Church of Fayetteville. The name was later changed to the First Presbyterian Church of Fayetteville. This new congregation met in a small courthouse, grew rapidly, and soon realized the need for a meeting house of their own. Mr. James Bright, a surveyor and early settler, subscribed $100, for which he deeded to the trustees of the First Presbyterian Church a parcel of land containing 1 acre, more or less, on the east side of the road from Fayetteville to Mulberry, which was part of the original Ezekiel Norris land grant. This plot was to be used for a church and cemetery. While records are yet to be resurrected, it is believed that the cemetery opened circa 1825 as the Fayetteville Cemetery, later referred to as the Old Fayetteville Cemetery. According to research by Francis Allison Young, a former member of the church who is now deceased, a total of 255 marked or known grave sites have been identified within the limits of the property. The first marked known grave site was William Bright, brother of James Bright, in 1818. The last marked grave site is that of Laura Ann Gray Scott, the widow of James D. Scott, in 1919. Thus, we assume after 101 years, the old Fayetteville Cemetery was closed circa 1920. The cemetery reflects the history and diversity of the early community. The first building on this site was of wood construction and was built in 1832. That original building was destroyed by a cyclone on February 24, 1851, as recorded in the session book by clerk John Morgan Bright. Quote, February 24, 1851, between the hours of 4 and 5 o'clock this instant, it pleased the Almighty to loose the winds of heaven, and our church was crushed to its foundations. The dismembered fragments remind us that we have no abiding city here below, end quote. The church was rebuilt on the same site with bricks made on site, and the rough sawed timbers that are in the attic were cut from trees nearby. The roof was constructed with massive yellow poplar beams serving as support for the huge span. This building was dedicated on September 17, 1854. Once more, the records fail to reveal when the present building was started or where the members met in the over 3 years between the storm and the dedication on September 17, 1854. 1860s. During the Civil War, Federal soldiers used the building for a hospital and housed their horses in the basement. Church benches were turned together to form feeding troughs for the horses. The soldiers were so impressed by the quality of the brick in the building that they removed some from the basement wall and sent them north. The hole remained in the wall until a window replaced it several years later. July 30, 1869. The early church had a spire atop which could be seen for 4 miles. It was feared that it was unsafe and should come down. This was proven untrue, as after the foundation had been sawed, it took a score of men and a long rope to topple it to the ground. Beginning with the purchase of a small tract of land, parentheses, Lot A, in parentheses, just south of the church cemetery in 1959, a program of land acquisition was launched. Longtime elder D.T. Buchanan was largely responsible for this first ever expansion of the church site. Shortly afterward, lots 18 and 5A were purchased. As a result of the forward-looking 1982 planning effort, it was thus possible to consider the expansion of church programs and facilities without the necessity to move to another location. The foundation was thus laid for the First Presbyterian Church to remain in its original location while growing to accommodate and serve both the congregation and the community. A plat drawn by Tom Bailey dated May 21, 1983 became the guide from which the Long Range Planning Committee worked. The First Presbyterian Church Long Range Planning Committee was formed in 1982 for the specific purpose of dealing with how will we use our present church property, what is our aim and intent concerning certain properties adjacent to our present property, how can present and future property be used to serve the people of our community and our church family. The first property recommended to the session congregation by the LRPC for purchase was Lot 6 on May 11, 1985. Lot 8 was a gift to the church on June 1, 1985 by Jimmy and Dot Thompson after they moved the 1820 structure to McBurg, Tennessee, which Steve and Pam Yates owned today. In 1987, the LRPC, for our 175th anniversary, made the following proposal, which was adopted by our session and Board of Deacons. Quotation: "Since we believe that this church should stay in its present location, and since we believe that additional land is desirable for our present and future work, we recommend as policy that the church purchase Lots 7 and Lots 9 through 16 as indicated on the enclosed chart entitled First Presbyterian Church Long Range Planning Committee, dated 5/21/1983. End quotation. Following, a property acquisition campaign commenced for the purpose of acquiring Lots 7 through 16. Ultimately, from September 18, 1991, Lot 7 through September 30, 2005, Lot 16, the LRPC session and congregation had completed the acquisition of all surrounding properties within the boundaries of Mulberry Avenue, Norris Street, Willard Street, Pioneer Street, and Column Street, and declared mission accomplished. With the exception of Lot 13, negotiations continue with the heirs of that parcel of property. By the end of the 20th century, the need to expand surfaced again. This time, both the work of the church and the needs of the community were considered. A program design committee was accordingly appointed in 1998 to project the specific needs of the congregation and translate that information into a plan for building. The plan that developed with the assistance of late Huntsville, Alabama architect Jerry Stallings called for a fully functional family life center, complete with a full-size gymnasium, fellowship hall, library, kitchen, hospitality meeting room, and 4 classrooms for a child care wing. February 2003, ground was broken for construction of the Family Life Center. July 2004, the Family Life Center was completed. The lower level includes a preschool classroom wing with 4 classrooms, a director's office, workroom, and library. The upper level includes a kitchen, parlor room, and multi-purpose fellowship hall that can be used for meals. It seats 330, receptions, drama and music presentations, athletic activities, and much more. Today, the First Presbyterian Church occupies the oldest public building within the city limits and continues to serve as a home to its congregation and as a place of community assembly. This 2004 edition, known as the Family Life Child Care Center, consumed Lots 5, 5A, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 18. This brings us to where we are today. The session reconstituted the Long Range Planning Committee in October 2019 for the purpose of developing a long-range land use plan for Lots 10, 10A, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. The committee considered the following: lighting of parking lots, driveways, and signs, wayfinding signage, building signage, directional signage, beautification, columbarium, elderly housing, joint venture, pocket park site with City of Fayetteville, removal, pruning of trees and shrubbery, restoration of sidewalk curb along Norris Street, seeding, sawing, and strawing, new concrete steps and handrails, handicap parking and ramp, relocation or removal of overgrown boxwoods, cemetery sign, bronze plaque, retainer walls, cleanup of East Market Street, Column Street, Pioneer Street entrances, cut stone rock salvage, drainage, child care playground relocation. As we make this journey together, we will take pictures of concepts, seek professional assistance, and formalize plans for signage, lighting, accessibility, and landscaping to plan the future of God's church, a place of and for community assembly and worship.